Imagine opening the window of your home and seeing no street, no garden, no houses across from you, only empty space. A deep abyss falling hundreds of meters beneath your feet. Massive rocks holding your home in place, as if the mountain itself had become your wall, your roof, and your floor. Across the world, people did not always run away from mountains. Sometimes they climbed them. They did not choose the easiest land. They chose the edge. They built homes, villages, and monasteries on cliffs, inside rock walls, and beneath enormous stone overhangs. Some were built for protection, some for isolation, and some were built for one strange reason: to feel closer to the sky. These are not legends. They are real places, and many of them still stand today. Today, we will travel from Chapter 10 down to Chapter 1, through some of the most astonishing cliffside homes and mountain settlements ever built by human hands. Chapter 10. Azenhas do Mar, the village hanging above the Atlantic. On the coast of Portugal, near Sintra, there is a small village that looks as if it was carefully placed on the edge of the world. Its name is Azenhas do Mar. From a distance, its white houses seem to slide down the cliff toward the ocean. Red roofs, bright walls, small windows facing the endless Atlantic. Here, very little separates the people from the sea, just a steep wall of rock. Below, the waves crash violently against the cliffs. Above, the houses remain strangely calm. The village is not hanging in the air in a literal sense, but it feels that way. Every home stands close to the edge. Every balcony faces open space. Every window hears the ocean before it sees the morning light. Long ago, this area was connected to watermills and coastal life. Over time, it became one of the most beautiful seaside villages in Portugal. But its beauty does not come from luxury. It comes from the silent tension between home and abyss, between daily life and the raw power of nature. Imagine a man stepping out of his house in the morning. He walks through a narrow lane. A few steps away, the land suddenly ends. Beyond it, there is nothing but wind and water. In Azenhas do Mar, no legend is needed. The view alone tells the story. A small village, a high cliff, and an ocean that never stops reminding people that the ground beneath them is never fully guaranteed. Chapter 9. Pont-en-Royans, French homes suspended above the river. In southeastern France, near the entrance to the Vercors Mountains, there is a quiet village called Pont-en-Royans. But its calm appearance can be misleading. When you stand near the Bourne River and look upward, you see something unusual. Old, colorful houses packed tightly against the rock. Some of them extend beyond the cliff edge, as if testing how much weight the mountain can still hold. These are not just beautiful facades, they are the result of necessity. In old mountain villages, space was limited. The land was narrow, the rock was close, and the river flowed below. So people did not always build outward across wide open ground. They built toward the empty space. They raised walls above one another. They extended rooms over the river, and they used every possible meter between stone and water. In Pont-en-Royans, you can see how humans negotiated with nature. They could not move the mountain. They could not stop the river, so they created a place between the two. The houses seem to have watched the water for centuries. Their colorful fronts catch the daylight while the river moves quietly beneath them. For visitors, the scene may feel charming, but imagine life here hundreds of years ago. A harsh winter, moisture rising from the river, stone above you, empty space below you. And yet the village survived, because when people become used to the edge, the abyss slowly becomes part of everyday life. Chapter 8. Setenil de las Bodegas, the homes that hid beneath the rock. In Andalusia, southern Spain, there is a village that does not only stand on the mountain, it goes beneath it. Its name is Setenil de las Bodegas. When you walk through its streets, you feel as if the sky has disappeared. Not because night has fallen, but because an enormous rock has become the roof above the road. Some homes here were built into the rocky cliff beneath massive stone overhangs carved by an ancient river over time. The people did not completely carve out the mountain. They used what nature had already created. The rock became a roof, the space beneath it became a home, and the street became a passage between life and stone. What makes Setenil so strange is that the danger is not only below you, it is above your head. You walk between homes and cafes while a huge mass of rock hangs overhead, frozen in time. But the people who live here know these rocks. They know their shade, they know their coolness in summer, and they know the protection they can offer in winter. Long before modern air conditioning, the rock here worked like a natural shelter. It blocked the heat, it insulated the homes, and it gave the village a kind of protection ordinary walls could never provide. But Setenil is more than clever architecture. It is a psychological experience. To live beneath a rock is to accept that your home is part of the mountain. No one can fully separate the house from the stone, or the street from the valley, or the human from the nature surrounding him. In Setenil, man does not seem to be the master of the place. He seems more like an old guest, one who learned how to live beneath the mountain's shadow without waking it. Chapter 7. Meteora, the village clinging to the rock above the sea. On the Italian coast, inside the famous region of Cinque Terre, Meteora appears like a painting suspended on a rocky cliff. Colorful houses rise above the Ligurian Sea, yellow, orange, red, pink, all packed together on a steep stone slope facing the water. From far away, the village does not look built. It looks as if it grew out of the mountain. The streets are narrow, the stairs are everywhere, and the houses stand one above another, as if each one is searching for a small place between rock and sky. Here, living on the edge was not only a matter of beauty, it was part of coastal survival. The land was limited, the mountains came close to the sea, and small farms had to be carved into stone terraces. So people learned to use height. They built above the rock, they walked through narrow paths, and they lived with the sea as a powerful neighbor that could never be ignored. For visitors, Meteora may feel romantic, the sunset, the colors, the small boats, but behind this beauty, there was a difficult life. Daily climbing, salty winds, rain hitting the walls, and unstable slopes that had to be protected and maintained. It is a beautiful village, but it is not an easy one. Every house here seems to whisper, "I exist because someone accepted the challenge. Someone carried the stones. Someone climbed with them. Someone built a home that did not simply look at the sea, it faced it." Manarola may not be the highest place on this list, but it is one of the clearest examples of the human ability to turn danger into beauty. Chapter 6. The Hanging Houses of Cuenca. Balconies above empty space. In the Spanish city of Cuenca, there is a group of houses that became among the most famous hanging homes in Europe. They are known as the Casas Colgadas, the hanging houses. And the name is not an exaggeration. These houses stand directly on the edge of the Hueca Gorge. Their wooden balconies project from the rocky wall, appearing to hang above open air. In the past, many houses like these lined the edge of the old city, but over time, only a few survived, and that makes them even more powerful. They are not just beautiful old buildings. They are the remains of an entire way of living, a way of life that did not fear the edge. It used it. When you look at these houses from across the gorge, the cliff itself appears to become part of the architecture. The wall is not built on ordinary ground. It stands at the very end of the rock. The balcony does not overlook a street. It overlooks a deep void. Imagine standing on one of those balconies centuries ago. No modern glass, no modern safety barriers like the ones we know today. Only wood, stone, and wind. Below you, a quiet gorge. Behind you, a house where people ate, slept, talked, and lit candles as if everything was normal. That is the power of Cuenca. Not just the height, but the way it turned the abyss into part of domestic life. The room is ordinary. The table is ordinary. The voice inside the house is ordinary. But one step toward the window reveals a terrifying question. How has this place remained standing for so many centuries? Chapter 5. Al-Hajara in Yemen, a human fortress in the Haraz Mountains. In Yemen, deep inside the Haraz Mountains, there is a village that feels as if it belongs to another age. Its name is Al-Hajara. Tall stone houses, narrow pathways, sharp mountains surrounding the settlement from every side. This village is not just a group of homes on high ground. It is an entire fortress built on rock. From a distance, the houses look like a natural extension of the mountain, almost the same color, the same roughness, the same sense of strength. As if the builders did not place stones on the mountain, but convinced the mountain to become homes. In places like this, height was protection. The higher you lived, the harder it was for others to reach you. The narrower the paths, the easier it became to defend the village. So, mountain settlements were not only architectural choices, they were survival strategies. In Al-Hajara, you feel that every window once watched the road, every wall understood isolation, and every house was built not merely to look beautiful, but to resist time. The people here lived with dryness, cold nights, and difficult routes. They carried water, they carried food, they climbed stairs and slopes that offered no mercy. But in return, they gained something valuable: safety, silence, and command over the horizon. This village reminds us that hanging homes were not always built to amaze tourists. Sometimes they were born from an old fear of invasion, fear of chaos, and fear that easy land might be the first place danger would reach. Chapter 4. Mesa Verde, Cities Inside the Cliffs. In Colorado, in the United States, there is one of the most mysterious cliff-dwelling sites in North America, Mesa Verde. Here, the ancestral Pueblo people did not simply build above the edge, they built inside the cliffs, under natural stone ceilings, in places that, from a distance, look hidden in shadow. The most famous of these places is called Cliff Palace. Not a palace in the royal sense, but a stunning architectural complex of rooms, walls, and circular ceremonial spaces. What makes Mesa Verde so astonishing is not only that people lived there, it is how they built there. Stone upon stone, walls inside the cliff, a village under a natural roof that protected it from sun and rain. They understood the rock. They knew how to use shade, how to protect walls, how to make a place difficult to reach, yet still possible to live in. And yet, one great question remains. Why did they move into the cliffs? Was it for protection? Was it because of the climate? Was it connected to changes in farming? Or was it a mixture of fear, pressure, and need? There is no single easy answer, but Mesa Verde leaves a deep feeling behind. You are not just looking at abandoned homes. You are looking at an entire community that at one point in history decided to move closer to the stone than to the open plain, to enter the mountain instead of moving away from it. And then they left. The walls remained in the shadows, as if still waiting for someone to hear the last voice that once lived there. Chapter 3. The Hanging Temple of China, a building that defies gravity. On the side of Mount Hang in China, there is a structure known as the Hanging Temple, and here, imagination comes dangerously close to reality. The temple is fixed to a steep cliff face. From a distance, its wooden pillars seem to carry the entire building, but the real secret goes deeper. A major part of the support comes from beams inserted directly into the rock itself, as if the temple was not built in front of the mountain, but pushed into its body. This place is extremely old. It is often said to be more than 1,500 years old, but its age is not the strangest thing about it. The strangest thing is the idea itself. Why would humans build a temple here? Why choose a frightening cliff instead of flat, open land? Perhaps because ordinary ground was not enough for certain dreams. Perhaps isolation was part of worship. Perhaps a place hanging between sky and earth gave people the feeling that the material world had become distant. Walking inside the temple is not like visiting an ordinary building. The corridors are narrow, the walls feel close, and below you, empty space makes every step feel heavier. Wood touches stone. Stone swallows part of the structure. Outside, the pillars look like thin lines resisting the weight of centuries. This temple is not a home for daily life, but it is a home for the spirit, a house suspended above fear. And it proves that humans did not build on edges only because they were forced to. Sometimes they did it because they were searching for a meaning they could not find on level ground. Chapter 2. Katskhi Pillar, a place of isolation above a single rock. In Georgia, near the town of Meteora, a lonely stone pillar rises from the landscape. It reaches about 40 meters high, and on its summit stands a small church and monastic space. This is Katskhi Pillar. The scene feels almost impossible. A narrow rock rising like a finger toward the sky. A small structure resting at the top, as if placed there by a hand that did not fear the impossible. Here, there is no complete village, no street, no neighbors. There is only rock, sky, and silence. That is why Katskhi carries a different kind of awe. In hanging villages, you see how people worked with the mountain in order to live. But in Katskhi, you see how a human being can leave the world behind. Climbing upward is not merely moving from one place to another. It is separation. Every meter upward means the noise below becomes smaller. Every step means daily life moves farther away. At the top, there is no room for crowds, no room for luxury. The space is limited, and life there is hard and simple. But that is the heart of the place. Katskhi was not built for comfort. It was built for withdrawal, for focus, for silent watching. A viewer may wonder, how could a person live above this stone pillar? What did he hear at night? How did the world look from one small window? And perhaps the deeper question is this: what makes a human choose solitude above a stone pillar instead of life among people? Katskhi answers without words. Sometimes humans do not build above mountains to escape danger. Sometimes they climb there to come closer to who they truly are. Chapter 1. Meteora, when monasteries rose toward the sky. And now we reach the place that feels as if it was created to end this journey. Meteora in Greece. There, enormous rock pillars rise from the plain, as if the earth pushed vertical mountains toward the sky. On top of these pillars, orthodox monasteries were built, appearing to hang between two worlds. They are not fully on earth, and they are not in the sky. They exist somewhere between the two. The name Meteora itself is connected to the idea of being suspended in the air. And when you see the monasteries above the rocks, you understand why. Before modern roads and stairs, reaching these places was extremely difficult. Isolation was not a detail. It was the very soul of the place. The monks were not searching for comfort. They were searching for silence, for distance, for a space that the noise of cities could not easily reach. Building a monastery on top of a rock pillar is not an ordinary act. Imagine moving the stones, the wood, the supplies, the tools. Imagine climbing and descending, the wind, the fear, and the determination needed for someone to say, "Here, on top of this rock, we will build." Meteora is not just a group of beautiful monasteries. It is an ancient human statement that people can turn an impossible place into a home, that a mountain, no matter how harsh it appears, can become a shelter.
But the price was isolation, the climb, and life on an unforgiving edge. In Meteora, the idea of hanging homes reaches its highest meaning, not only because the buildings stand high above the ground, but because they carry something deeper. The human being who lived on the edge was not always running away from the world. Sometimes he climbed above it so he could finally see it clearly.
From Portugal to France, from Spain to Yemen, from China to Georgia and Greece, the same idea appeared again and again in different forms. A human being facing a mountain, little land, nearby danger, and an endless desire to survive. So he built, on the edge, beneath the rock, inside the cliff, and above stone pillars. These places amaze us because they look impossible, but in truth, they reveal something very simple about humanity. When the land becomes narrow, humans look upward. When the plain feels dangerous, they climb toward the edge. And when they search for silence, they build where others are afraid to stand. Maybe that is why these homes and monasteries remain unforgettable. They are not just stone and wood. They are ancient courage, suspended above the abyss. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe to the channel and join us in a new documentary about real places that seem as if they came from imagination.